If someone had said to you in December that by April, millions of people all over the world would be infected with a mysterious new virus that has no vaccine, you'd think they were talking about a Hollywood script. It's happened so fast, it almost doesn't seem real.
Breaking developments in the coronavirus pandemic. The death toll rising in the U.S., more than 60 dead.
Doctors on the front lines in Italy with an ominous warning tonight, calling this the apocalypse and telling the world to get ready.
Well, most of us have never lived through anything like this.
No one is immune to the COVID-19 virus. It threatens all of us.
Now imagine a world where mass outbreaks of deadly diseases are commonplace. Well, it sounds scary, but that might not be too far off. The World Health Organization has warned in a BBC interview that we're entering a new phase where such a reality is, quote, a new normal.
There's two ways out. One is if we get miracle therapeutics that are greater than 95% cure rate. We can't count on that. And the other is a vaccine that's highly effective that we get out to the world population. You know, some of those vaccines...
The flu season is upon us. Which type will we worry about this year? And what kind of shots will we be told to take? Remember the swine flu scare of 1976? That was the year the U.S. government told us all that swine flu could turn out to be a killer that could spread across the nation. And Washington decided that every man, woman, and child in the nation should get a shot to prevent a nationwide outbreak, a pandemic. Well, 46 million of us obediently took the shot. And now 4,000 Americans are claiming damages from Uncle Sam amounting to $3.5 billion because of what happened when they took that shot. By far the greatest number of the claims, 2/3 of them, are for neurological damage or even death, allegedly triggered by the flu shot. We pick up the story back in 1976 when the threat posed by the swine flu virus seemed very real indeed.
This virus was the cause of a pandemic in 1918 and 1919 that resulted in over 500,000 deaths in the United States, as well as 20 million deaths around the world.
See how easy it is to...
Thus, the U.S. government's publicity machine was cranked into action to urge all America to protect itself against the swine flu menace.
Influenza is serious business. During major flu epidemics, millions of people are sick and thousands die. Well, this year you can get protection. The vaccines are safe, easy to take, and they can protect you against flu. So roll up your sleeve. Protect yourself.
One of those who did roll up her sleeve was Judy Roberts. She was perfectly healthy, an active woman, when in November of 1976, she took her shot. 2 weeks later, she says, she began to feel a numbness starting up her legs.
I joked about it at that time. I said I'll be numb to the knees by Friday if this keeps up. By the following week, I was totally paralyzed.
So completely paralyzed, in fact, that they had to operate on her to enable her to breathe. And for 6 months, Judy Roberts was a quadriplegic. The diagnosis? A neurological disorder called Guillain-Barré syndrome, GBS for short.
The document that I'm talking about is called Chinese Tech Landscape Overview, and what they do there is they talk about where China has advantage and how the U.S. can overcome that advantage, and they basically say that the U.S. right now still is leading in the creation stage of these AI technologies, but it's lagging behind China in the adoption stage. The reason that the U.S. lags behind China is because of several things. They say that in China there's a lack of what they call legacy systems. They include things like individual car ownership. They're saying that we need to adopt AI for pretty much every sector in the economy, and that medicine and healthcare is one of them. And this was even before any of this stuff with coronavirus happened. They were saying that a lot of these changes they were asking for would be unfathomable in the West. This is last May. And remember, this isn't just any government agency. This is the intelligence community, the military, and Silicon Valley.
New normal.
As the coronavirus pandemic brings life across the country to a grinding halt, Americans are facing a new normal.
It is a new normal that we all have to get used to.
I know a big question, Tom, from a lot of New Yorkers. When might we ever get back to normal? The governor talked today about working toward a new normal.
So we're going to a different place, which is a new normal.
This morning, almost 40 million Californians waking up to a new normal. Social distancing at schools and businesses.
You may be having dinner with a waiter wearing gloves, maybe a face mask. Dinner where the menu is disposable, where your temperature is checked before you walk in.
A new normal that will hopefully allow America to reopen.
And looking forward into this next phase of reopening and establishing some kind of new normal.
Embrace the new normals of social distancing and sheltering in place, all the physical isolation.
Now masks are becoming the new normal.
When we get out of the sort of new normal and get to a new normal.
Just trying to cope with the new normal. This is the new normal.
Imagining or reimagining what society is going to look like when they reopen. If you want to go to a restaurant, you're going to have your temperature taken before you're allowed inside to dine. So that's just possibly going to be the new normal.
So what is the new normal like for the class of COVID-19?
Constantly monitored by facial recognition cameras that are able to instantly put a face to a name. Now the Chinese are also ranked.
Teachers at this primary school in China know exactly when someone isn't paying attention. These headbands measure each student's level of concentration. The information is then directly sent to the teacher's computer and to parents. China has big plans to become a global leader in artificial intelligence. It has enabled a cashless economy where people make purchases with their faces. A giant network of surveillance cameras with facial recognition helps police monitor citizens. Meanwhile, some schools offer glimpses of what the future of high-tech education in the country might look like.
Good job!
Classrooms have robots that analyze students' health and engagement levels. Students wear uniforms with chips that track their locations. There are even surveillance cameras that monitor how often students check their phones or yawn during classes. These gadgets have alarmed Chinese netizens. But schools say it wasn't hard for them getting parental consent to enroll kids into what is one of the world's largest experiments in AI education. A program that's supposed to boost students' grades while also feeding powerful algorithms.
为了就是国家的这个研究呀、发展呀，我觉得是没有问题的。
The government has poured billions of dollars into the project, bringing together tech giants, startups, and schools. We got exclusive access to a primary school a few hours outside of Shanghai. To see firsthand how AI tech is being used in the classroom. For this 5th grade class, the day begins with putting on a brain wave sensing gadget. Students then practice meditating.
现在想象我们眉心有一点柔和的光芒绽放。
The device is made in China and has 3 electrodes, 2 behind the ears and 1 on the forehead. These sensors pick up electrical signals sent by neurons in the brain. The neural data is then sent in real time to the teacher's computer. So while students are solving math problems, a teacher can quickly find out who's paying attention and who's not.
说明这段时间他是有点在那走神的。
A report is then generated that shows how well the class was paying attention. It even details each student's concentration level at 10-minute intervals. It's then sent to a chat group for parents.
就是他可以看到每个人的评分。
The reports are detailed, but whether these devices really work and what they exactly measure isn't as clear. We were curious if the headbands could actually measure concentration, so one of our reporters tried on the device.
但我没有感觉自己特别集中。不是，它就是靠你的意念。
This is a new technology with still fairly little research behind it.
Theodore Zanto is a neuroscientist at the University of California, San Francisco. He was surprised to learn that this tech, called electroencephalography, also known as EEG, is being used in the classroom on children. It's usually used by doctors in hospitals and labs.
EEG is very susceptible to artifacts. And so if you are itchy or just a little fidgety, or the EEG wasn't set up properly so that the electrodes didn't have a good contact, affects the signal.
Despite the chances for false readings, teachers told us the headbands have forced students to become more disciplined.
上课回答我的问题，就是他们的声音会比平常更响亮。
Teachers say the students now pay better attention during class, and that has made them study harder and achieve higher scores.
上课认真听讲，作业做的基本上是全对的。
But not all students are as enthusiastic.
就是这几个脑子脑筋，我感觉这里有个紧的。
This 5th grader, whom we caught dozing off in class, told us his parents punish him for low attention scores. And that kind of data adds a new kind of pressure for students.
想啊，如果在一次考试全班人都考了95分以上，就你考了一个85，你会不会感觉你有一个
Companies we interviewed said the data can go to government-funded research projects. We spoke to parents who were unclear about where the data ended up, and they didn't seem to care too much. Santos says there's likely no privacy protection at all.
In a classroom, if you're trying to make an assessment of an individual student, you really can't anonymize it.
Experts and citizens alike are sounding alarms about various aspects of the country's huge push into artificial intelligence. These classrooms are laboratories for future generations. And while these new tools may potentially help some 200 million students raise their grades, just how this all works out won't be apparent until they become adult citizens.
This new normal is going to look very, very different.
A new normal. A new normal. This is our new normal.
We will transition into the new normal.
This will be the new normal until a vaccine is developed.
Zero tolerance. So every time we see a case, we basically pounce on it. We do everything we can then to shut it down and to eliminate it when it arises. And we will have to keep doing that.
They are killing them. They are not helping them.
On an ongoing basis, and yes, until a vaccine arises.
You know, it's so important to get not just hundreds of millions, but literally billions of those vaccines, because this is a global problem.
We can anticipate that we will continue like this for some time until an effective vaccine is widely available.
The vaccine is the thing that will change things.
I think even after we're through this first wave, we will need to remain vigilant and we will need to bring in different measures. Normality, as it was before, will not come back.
You know, when you look at what they've got planned for us, it's hard to know what to even say about this anymore. I mean, it's gone from the sublime to way beyond the ridiculous. And when you look at what they're doing in China, I mean, what do you say to that? You know, and we've gone to a reality where vaccines have now become our saviour. And they're talking about, of course, a new pandemic as well. And you know they've planned for this for a while. They've planned for this for quite a while, folks. Even here in Australia, they know exactly what they're doing with this lockdown. And there was a test that was run last year, I think. Might have been the year before, but I think it was last year. I'll put a couple of minutes of it in here, and you know it shows that they had all this worked out. They know, or they knew, that it was going to take 3 months to basically break the supply chain and shut down all small businesses and all the stuff that will go with breaking the supply chain. They knew this would take 3 months. Australia was in danger because we were too dependent on overseas resources, and we may see our supply chain break down in 3 months if a crisis were to erupt.
Cheryl Durant rose through the ranks to become one of Australia's most senior military planners. At a secret meeting in Melbourne, she gathered 17 leading engineers to wargame whether their industries would survive if the crisis brought global trade to a halt, cutting off their supply chains.
We wanted to understand what was the thing we were most vulnerable in.
While the group didn't look at pandemics specifically, they predicted Australia would suffer massive upheaval in an unspecified global crisis. And they laid out a timeline for how our essential services would fail in the space of just 3 months. Some of the predictions were eerily accurate.
So what do you think they've kept everybody locked down? What do you think they want everyone locked down for 3 months, folks? There's a lot more to this than meets the eye. Interesting stuff, folks. And you know, a lot of it is about vaccines, controlling people. And like I said, they're going to do that with Pandemic 2. Bill Gates has already warned us that the next pandemic, Pandemic 2, will likely be a bio-terror event, as if this wasn't a bio-terrorism event already being carried out by him.
The idea of a bio-terrorist attack is kind of the nightmare scenario. Most of the work we're going to do to be ready for Pandemic 2, I call this Pandemic 1, most of the work we'll do to be ready for that are also the things we need to do to minimize the threat of bioterrorism.
You can see where they're going to take it, folks. If people don't accept what they want to do, which is going to be the introduction of this Chinese type system, this whole AI control grid that they're pushing for. And again, I do recommend you go and look at that interview that I posted on my last show with Whitney Webb, or go and look at the full interview. I'll put a link below. She really does nail what's going on in that sector. And you know, you've got to understand, all the governments work together, sure. You've got to look at this whole thing as one multinational, multi-generational criminal cabal masquerading as a government. They all work together. But even within that, I mean, there's competition. There's factions that want to get the better of others. And, you know, the first to lead the world in AI is going to be who leads the future. So you can see why the United States would want to do that. And it would appear that they're prepared to sacrifice all of their way of life in order to reach that goal. And you know, and America is the big target in a lot of this. Now, even when I look at Australia here and I look at the supply chains and what's going on in this country, we have a small enough population and we still have enough viable land, and you know, food is still flowing to a degree, so we still have, you know, a reasonably safe zone here. But America is really being set up for a fall in this, because Americans are going to lose their entire way of life in order to introduce this AI system that they want to introduce. You know, and you can see, like in that interview with Whitney Webb, they outlined the roadmap that they want to introduce. And they're just going to do it, you know, by whatever means they can to do it. That's the plan. The question is, what do we do about it? You know, spreading information is the good part, but they're really shutting all that down. They just don't want information getting out there. They removed Dr. Erickson's video from YouTube, where he was basically explaining how your immune system works and how detrimental all these lockdown rules are to your immune system. They're also removing alternate magazines from the shelves as well. There's a magazine called What the Doctors Don't Tell You. I think that's what it's called. And they removed that from Coles and Woolworths here in Australia. Someone went to buy a magazine and they found it, no, this has been recalled. And they had one in their hands. They found one in the store and they said, well, I'll just buy this one. And they said, no, we can't sell it to you because it's been recalled. Because the government doesn't want anyone having access to alternate information. There was also a doctor, there was a doctor's surgery who was raided because the guy was giving intravenous vitamin C treatments to people. And this is a common treatment. They've been doing it for quite a while. But suddenly they're rating it, saying it's misleading people into fake COVID-19 treatments. Another meatworks was shut down in Dallas as well, continuing the push to destroy the food in America. There was a man in the meatworks tested positive for COVID-19, got sick at work, so of course they took him and tested him. He tested positive for COVID, as you would, because you have exosomes in your body if you're stressed out, and so you're going to test positive for COVID. And then he died in hospital. Of course he did, because they took him to hospital and they would have given him COVID treatment, which means they would have isolated him, they would have taken him away from his family, they would have put him in a room by himself and stuck him on a ventilator machine, which would have killed him, because this is what they're doing. And so now they've tested other people in the meatworks and found that there's other people there that are testing positive for COVID-19, i.e. exosomes, because they're stressed or their bodies are toxic. And so they've shut down another meatworks in Dallas.
Dominguez started feeling sick around April 16th with a fever and body aches. Dominguez's family says he tested positive for COVID-19 and died April 25th. Community activist Carlos Quintanilla says workers told him 52 employees have tested positive and 2 employees have died. The company has also paused operations, saying in a statement, "We have taken this action as a way to help protect the health and safety of our team members and expect to conclude our review during the week of April 27th. During this pause in production, all employees will continue to be paid. We also expect no disruption in supplying products to our customers at this time based on current inventory. No disruption in supplying products to our customers at this time based on current inventory."
Continuing the attack against the flow of food. You know, and again, folks, they're just doing this to push this vaccine on people. And, you know, we know what's going on with the vaccines. Interestingly, I mean, I don't know if anyone saw it, I suppose a lot of people did. The Premier of Queensland here, the state that I'm in, the Premier of Queensland, whatever its name is, this parasite, this criminal, I can't pronounce its name. That's the thing, you know, these staunch Australian people, how come we can't pronounce any of their names? It's something like, I don't know, Pussy Slug or something. But she went on television to promote the new flu shot, and there she was, getting a fake flu shot.
Like Premier to get the jab.
Oh, that's right. I didn't even feel it.
Risk. The perfect push for Queenslanders like Premier.
They didn't even take the cap off the needle. She was just pretending to get a flu shot. She go, "Oh, I didn't even feel it." Well, of course you didn't, you lying slug, because the cap was still on the needle and you didn't actually get the shot, you liar. What are you doing as a Premier of a state when you are so incredibly dishonest that you're going to go onto TV and tell barefaced lies in front of the people and tell them to take a poison you haven't got the backbone to take yourself, you lying bitch. Oh, these people, folks. They do get your goat. They really do. They get my goat anyway. But yeah, folks, it's a pretty dystopian sort of a future that we're being led into. If you look at that video from China that I showed you before, I mean, this is pretty drastic stuff, folks. Pretty drastic stuff. You know, and a lot of people, I mean, it hasn't really affected me that much, the lockdown, really. I mean, I haven't abided by any of it. I just go and do what I normally do. Go to the parks, go for walks in the forest, go shopping, do what I want to do. The only problem I've had is when I went to buy a new denim shirt and I couldn't because the Levi's shop was closed. I found that to be a little bit of annoyance. I found it annoying to see so many people wearing masks, and so I've printed out a leaflet, which is actually this one I'll put on the screen here, and I'm actually handing that out to people. Anybody I see in a shop with a mask, I hand them one of them, and anybody who has any sign up there saying they would prefer credit cards rather than cash, I hand them one of these. And you know, I have these printed up, and that's what I've been taking around with me to show people. And just doing what I can. I mean, if we get led into this whole cashless system that they want to create, it's all over, folks. You know, and we've got these patrols on the borders stopping us do what we want to do. You know, they're talking about perhaps laxing the social distancing. Which, social distancing, it shouldn't even be called social distancing. It's not social distancing. We still talk to each other. It's physical distancing. It's like personal apartheid, personal segregation. We're all being learned that the only safe place to be is by yourself. You shouldn't be around anybody else. And everybody's locked in homes and locked away and under isolation, destroying their immune systems. It's such a setup, folks. They're setting people up to get sick by keeping them away from each other. And it's such a scam. A lot of people say, how do I maintain? Well, no stake in the outcome, folks. I've seen this coming for a long time. I've been telling people, for years, there's a train coming. And if you don't pay attention, it's going to hit you. And when it hits, there will be no warning. It will be sudden. And, well, the train has hit, folks. But, even saying that, it's not going to get completely bad immediately. It's going to, be relaxed a little bit until Pandemic 2 comes out, as Bill Gates is warning us. When you look at it and you look at the little bit of that video clip that I played you before of the ABC actually predicting how long it would take to break down the supply chain and all the stuff they're doing. They had Event 201 late last year. And I've said on a few earlier reports about this that, we're all part of that exercise. They're running an exercise. It's a live exercise. And they even said that. There was one guy who said that, and then Trump leaned over and said, you should have told us. It's part of the prelude to the storm, if you will. The real storm is yet to come. But the real goal is a society like what I just showed you in China. That's what will be left. That's what will be in the smart cities. The rest of it is depopulation. Obviously a lot of people are not going to want to go along with this. And, they don't need everybody to go along with it. All they have to do is put it in place and get to a point where, you've got to have your temperature taken in order to walk into a supermarket or in order to do anything. You've got to have these biometric scans. You've got to have everything on your smartphone. You've got to have the tracing app that they want to call it, which isn't a tracing app. It's a Big Brother app. I'd call it a Nazi app, but I don't want to really demean the Nazis with what these people are doing, because it's far worse than any concept anybody had of the Nazis. And I don't buy into the official story of World War II anyway, but that's a whole other story. As we look, as Napoleon said, folks, history is a lie agreed upon, and that goes for modern history as well. But this tracing app is a surveillance app. It's not about anything to do with just contact tracing. It's about everything to do with you. They want all your biometrics. They want everything on this app, on all your medical history, and they want it accessible all the time in real time by anybody who wants to access that information, any type of alphabet agency. Again, go back and look at that video that I showed in the beginning of what's going on in China. And think what they want to do here. Think what they are turning our societies into, folks. We're really on the cusp of a whole different world. And this tracing app, folks, they're saying they won't make it mandatory, but you may find it difficult to get into shops and stores or buy anything if you don't have it on your phone. Isn't that wonderful? And like I said, it's hard to even know what to say about all this, folks. It's hard to even know what to say. Maybe just look at the tree instead. It's a beautiful place. It's a beautiful tree. Yeah, but I've been speaking out about this for so long, so many years. Warning people about this. So many people have. All those people that spoke out about David Icke all those years. I mean, he was pretty right, folks. He's pretty right. He's been vindicated in all the stuff that he said the governments were going to do. That's for sure. A lot of people still seem to have dropped the ball on this, though. A lot of people still think Trump is their friend. which is quite amazing. I just can't understand that. You know, with everything Trump has done to support all this, you know, the whole push for AI, the push for 5G, everything he wants to do, everything that was revealed in that Whitney Webb interview, the stuff that he's involved in, the new council of whatever that he's set up, I forget the name, that roadmap that they built, which completely outlined the shift into AI, which is completely complemented by this whole coronavirus crisis. Now, it's all there, folks. It's all right there for everybody to see. All you need is the eyes to see it. And again, it's America that's going to suffer, you know, I think more than Australia. I mean, we're all going to go into this surveillance state, but I think there's going to be far more deaths and far more suffering in American society. Too many people are waiting for some big event, you know, someone to come and save them, or someone to give the battle cry or whatever. You know, they don't realise that they could simply walk away from all this. You know, a lot actually rests on the backs of the American people, because they're the only people that are sort of still armed. They're the only people that has the potential to actually reclaim their government, reclaim their country. I mean, we're attempting to do it here with some of the tribal stuff we're doing, and that's a whole different approach. And, you know, it's almost got to a point in the United States where, I mean, the army's out all over the place. So, you know, is it even beyond the point where you could even sort of stage some sort of a small revolution to reclaim the country? Unfortunately, most of the patriots still believe in Trump, you know, and that's been such a sell. It's been such a sell. You know, Trump's a billionaire, folks. Billionaires tend to look after themselves. You know, the first concern of any billionaire is keeping hold of his wealth. That's what they all like to do. There's Keith up here. There's my friend Keith. He hangs around a lot. And that's his friend Brian up the end there. Keith's still got his bad leg. You saw him the other day. He's a bit camera shy, as you can see. But yeah, folks, interesting world that we live in. Really interesting world that we live in. But again, you know, it's all due to our compliance. And as I said before, I have no stake in the outcome. You know, I came here to learn and to grow. Maybe this is some type of a soul test. But everything that we're seeing roll out now, I mean, you know, Bill Gates and his patent, the cryptocurrency, the patent that he set up for that, you know, the 666 patent, where he wants to actually measure your biometrics and use that as a form of cryptocurrency, you know. And looking at that whole scenario of what they're doing to the Japanese kids, those headbands they're making them wear for that little exercise to monitor their attention, you notice in there that it says they behave differently when they're wearing their headbands. They seem more attentive, they speak louder, all sorts of things. You know, they're looking at the children's thoughts, and they're reading the children's minds, and they're reading the children's neuro patterns, all doing it wirelessly, so they're all subject to this electromagnetic radiation with this band around their head, like a halo that you see in Minority Report. And you've got to ask the question, what are they pumping in to the kids' heads while they're taking this stuff out? And speaking of Minority Report, that was something else that was on that Whitney Webb interview, when she talked about the pre-crime. They were having a whole concept of using AI to bring in a pre-crime system, such as we saw in Minority Report.
The Department of Justice recently asked for the ability to indefinitely detain Americans, like in a more overt way, even though, as you mentioned, that was authorized by a past NDAA. William Barr is asking for the right to go out and do that. He says it's for fighting coronavirus. But last year, he tried to do the same under a pre-crime program that he said was going to be used to thwart mass shootings. And now it's about coronavirus. It was called the Disruption and Early Engagement Program, or DEEP. Almost no one reported on it except for the Huffington Post, which said, yay, Bill Barr is going to stop mass shootings. things is a really disturbing system about arresting people who they think are mobilizing towards violence based on their social media history and their private data on their smartphone. And this also, at the same time, there was this healthcare surveillance system that Ivanka Trump was promoting called HARPA, the Safe Home HARPA program, which was about using private medical data combined with information on smartphones to try and find someone who might have mental health issues and have the feds come talk to them or whatever. And now we're seeing her husband, Jared Kushner, promote the coronavirus surveillance system that will use private medical data and smartphone data. So it's essentially the same system, but has a different justification tacked onto it about why we need it, right?
So they got a lot of really dark stuff on the horizon, folks, and ultimately it's all about Silicon Valley not losing the edge. So, you look at Bill Gates' 666 patent, the whole concept of your biometrics is a currency, the cryptocurrency they want to move us into. And there's nothing wrong with cryptocurrency unless it's being run by the wrong people and it's centralized, which is what that would be. So, you can see where they're leading us, folks. And, if we get led into this type of a future, we're not going to have any humanity left. That'll be the end of it. Because the kids growing up into any type of future that is constructed in that way are going to have absolutely no reference point for what freedom looked like. These experiments they're running on the kids, you imagine where this is going to be 100 years from now. And imagine where it's going to be when people like us, people like you and me, have all died out. And there's no one to talk about this. There's no one to bring any message to people. By then they would have had another book burning. And the introduction of the internet is virtually a book burning in itself, because all the information that we're putting out there, all the information that I've shared with you, everything that I've said, everything that you've got from me, it's all digital. None of it exists in the real world. You can't go out and pick up a book. You can't go up and pick up a movie or anything like that, go and buy a DVD, anything like that. Even a video. It just doesn't exist. It's all digital. So when you look at the internet, it's kind of a book burning on a massive scale. It's a burning of all knowledge. And while that's happening, you've also got AI collecting all of the knowledge, all of our thoughts, all of our creations, all of the things that we do. We don't do it out here anymore. Sometimes we do. We may put it in a garden. We may put in a passion fruit vine. We may have a little bit of fruit on the trees. But ultimately, most of the stuff we create now, unless we're an artist creating paintings, perhaps an author selling books, but even the books, there'll be a burning. But most of the stuff we create, most of the stuff that's been created by the independent media is all existing only in the virtual world. So how will the kids growing up into the type of dystopia these people want to create ever have a reference point for what it really means to be a human? If we allow it. If we allow it. The question is, why do we keep voting for these people? Why do we keep turning to these people for solutions when all the problems that we face are deliberately created by these people? That's the question. But they seem to be on a winner with this coronavirus, this whole COVID pandemic. They've created the perfect storm. They can call anybody COVID positive. Anybody who's stressed out, they can call them COVID positive. Because it's just exosomes. Look at the work of Andrew Kaufman. I've pointed you to his lectures many, many times. Look at what they're really categorizing as this terrible pandemic. And basically, it's your immune system. So I guess that's what they're scared of, hey? If COVID-19 is this terrible thing that we need to get rid of, then what they're saying is we need to get rid of the ability your cells have to process and eliminate toxins. That sounds like a great world to grow up in, doesn't it? But it won't matter, folks, because we'll all be kept in bubble wrap in our own little plastic worlds with our virtual worlds and our virtual screens on and living our life with our sex robots and getting fed our genetically modified soma, getting fed our genetically modified Soylent, delivered to us on drones. We won't have to have any human contact with anyone at all. We can just be there, get monitored. If we're thinking outside the box, they'll know by the little halos that we're wearing, so they can take us away and put us into a reorientation camp, and everything's just going to be wonderful. If we allow it. Now, there's a certain group of people, folks, who want to control the world. There's a certain group of rich families who just want to live in luxury and have everybody else reduced to poverty and just working for them. Want to have us all turned androgynous, all not in contact with each other, never be able to get together to talk to each other to figure out what's really going on. Well, they just live in luxury. You know, and we're at the turning point for that to happen. And what this has been a test run of how they intend to do it. They won't lock us all down completely, not yet. That would be too obvious. They'll make sure a lot of people suffer, a lot of people lose their jobs, and they'll string this out for a couple of years until we see Pandemic 2, which will be a bio-terror attack. They'll probably revive Al-Qaeda or ISIS or some other pet and garden variety mercenary army disguised as a terrorist force that they manufactured. And I'll present that with us. Maybe it'll have a new name. Who knows? They'll come up with a new one. The COVID Squad. COVID ISIS, whatever, you know. Something. But we, you know, at this point, we just have to get through it ourselves, I think, folks. I mean, sure, we can wake up as many people as we can to what's going on, but we need to get our own networks together and get our own security together and look after ourselves. I mean, personally, I'm not going to back down in any of this. Doesn't matter what they throw at me. No, I'm just not going to do it. You know, I'm going to continue to live my life the way I do. If they kill me for doing so, well, they kill me for doing so. No stake in the outcome. You know, I didn't come here to live on my knees. I didn't come here to do what I was told. I don't believe that anybody has any right of ownership over anybody else, and I certainly don't believe the bullshit that they're selling with this pandemic. So, you know, I'll just take things as they come. But folks, we are in for a very, very interesting future. Very interesting future. He just flew up there. Up on the water tower. Water tank, sorry. Not really a tower. More of a tank. But anyway, folks, I suppose that's about all I wanted to share with you today. Thank you for joining me on these talks. I'll put all the links below to all the stuff that I've shown you on the show today. And do share the information with me that you keep sharing. I'm getting so many emails, folks. I can't keep up with all the emails. But thank you for sending them anyway. But just don't expect replies from me at this time, please. And it's almost useless sending me messages on Facebook, folks. I have such low bandwidth here, and Facebook loads very slowly for me. I only really go there to post a post. And, you know, it's just difficult to spend time opening pages that take, you know, 30 seconds or a minute to open each time I click a message. It's not an instantaneous thing for me. With emails, I can open them a little bit quicker. So, you know, I've been going through them and trying to get on top of all the emails. If you have emailed me and I've missed it, it might have gone into my junk folder. A lot of them do. And I've got to try to retrieve them all the time. I just kind of look for Crow House and retrieve all those emails. But thank you for all the information that you're sharing with me. It's been a daily thing. I mean, there's so much to cover on these reports. That's why I've been doing them every day. You know, like I said, just as I was going to take time off the radio show, you know, I stopped doing Surviving the Matrix, my regular weekly shows, because that was getting too much. And here I am now doing them virtually daily. So it's funny how the world changes so quickly. And you know, who would have thought that it was going to happen the way it did? I didn't see it coming, not like this. I didn't expect a pandemic and all the stuff that would go with it. I mean, in a way, I mean, sure, we thought they would stage a pandemic, but wow, you know, the measures that they've gone to and what they've been able to get away with by staging this, something that was that's completely a hoax. It's incredible. You know, problem, reaction, solution, or sometimes no problem. reaction solution. Crazy, folks. The media could sell ice to an Eskimo. They really could. They could convince anybody of anything, and they certainly have. But anyway, folks, I'll leave it there for now. Thank you for joining me on this report. I'll bring you another one tomorrow or the next day, soon. I'm sure it'll be soon because there's so much going on. Please take very good care until then, and stay safe. I mean, everybody, please stay safe. And again, thank you for all the emails, and thank you to my Patreon supporters. You guys are a legend, and I can't thank you enough. You know, you're the only ones that help me get all this research out and help me, you know, give me the time to compile these videos, because it's all a one-man job, folks. That's why some of them are a little bit shaky sometimes, and, you know, the bad editing and whatever, because it's difficult. You know, if I was going to spend the time on them that I did with the radio shows, I have to sit there and spend 3 or 4 days on each video. So I'm trying to get them out as quickly as I can and get the relevant information to you. So thank you for putting up with that. But anyway, folks, I'll look forward to speaking to you again soon. Please take very good care until then. In luck, Cash.